Rhys thinks he is stepping in to save one mocked elf girl, but her sealed power leads him straight into a dying world tree, desperate dark elves, and a divine crisis waiting to explode. Spoiler warning for chapters 11 through 20. This Chinese manhua follows Rhys, a calm black-haired figure connected to a heavenly role, as he tries to correct a world full of violence, imbalance, and bad systems. After the earlier chapters, the story moves into an elf-centered arc where prejudice, sealed power, sacred trees, and divine blessings all collide. The conflict is not just about winning fights. It is about whether Rhys can find a cleaner answer before everyone else chooses sacrifice, payback, or extinction. Chapter 11 starts in a town plaza, where a blonde elf girl is doing humble work while the crowd treats her like a problem instead of a person. She is happy to be back, but the townspeople's hostility makes it clear that elves carry a dangerous reputation here. Rhys arrives with his blue-haired companion, who does not understand why he is paying attention to someone so low status. Then a beast-drawn carriage suddenly runs wild through the street. The elf girl tries to take responsibility and stop it, but the danger is bigger than she can handle. Rhys steps in calmly, uses controlled energy, and prevents the disaster. That rescue earns the elf girl's trust, but it also reveals the real issue: her green, divine-looking power is sealed or restrained, and Rhys deliberately pushes against it to expose what she is hiding. Chapter 12 turns the elf girl's sealed power into a direct threat. A blonde elf-like woman is caught inside swirling green energy from a root-like entity that may be a monster, a sacred tree manifestation, or a magical guardian. She struggles to escape as the living force grows around her. A white-haired girl intervenes with a freezing or spatial technique, striking in and pulling her away before the roots can overwhelm her. Rhys watches with unusual calm, as if this confirms something he already suspected. After the rescue, the blonde woman is shaken, embarrassed, and confused, admitting she does not know what is happening. Rhys links the danger to a sacred tree and warns that the path ahead will not be safe. When the group is transported into an underground cavern and hostile pursuers appear, he reveals a glowing blue sign she immediately recognizes. Chapter 13 becomes a pressure test for the frightened blonde elf girl. A blue-green water spirit-like figure appears around her, but instead of letting her retreat into panic, Rhys pushes her to face the situation with her own power. His attitude is stern because pity will not help her survive. Armored enemies, a red demonic-looking creature, and spider-like threats close in, while the blonde girl is horrified by the violence and keeps breaking down. Rhys and the silver-haired girl keep forcing the same point: she has to stand up, not simply wait to be protected. After the group moves through a portal-like transition into an outdoor cave area, another spider-themed enemy appears. This time, the blonde girl finally releases a green dance-like spell that repels the attackers. But the victory is only a checkpoint, because a purple aura woman arrives as the next opponent. Chapter 14 reveals why the conflict around the elf girl matters so much. A dark elf woman confronts the blonde goddess-like woman in Rhys, surrounding the moment with hostile magic. She treats the blonde woman as a divine being she has finally found, but her respect is mixed with rage and desperation. The dark elves are dying, and their survival depends on a collapsing world tree. To her, killing the goddess and taking that power is not just payback, it is a possible rescue plan for her people. Rhys studies the situation with a glowing analysis-like spell and cuts through the emotional argument. He deduces that the elves depend on divine blessings, then suggests a solution that does not require killing the goddess. The group agrees to help, but tension remains high, especially when they reach the elf palace and the dark elf is punished for speaking rudely. Chapter 15 expands the crisis from one confrontation into a political and spiritual disaster. A dark elf maid reports to a blonde elf woman, then is struck or punished when the woman reacts angrily. Rhys and the others travel through the elf forest toward the palace, while different palace figures and hidden observers suggest that several sides are already maneuvering around the world tree problem. The blonde elf woman prepares a glowing staff and performs a ritual connected to the sleeping world tree. For a brief moment, the ritual seems successful. The tree calms, and the villagers believe the danger has passed. Then the situation reverses. The tree people go out of control, and a monstrous tree of chaos erupts through the forest. The chapter's hope turns into panic, while a long-haired male figure confronts the elf woman and mocks her dependence on the tree that is now failing them. Chapter 16 shifts into a full battlefield. Elf soldiers gather behind fortifications while Rhys, a blonde elf leader, and their allies watch a massive stone and ice titan attack the settlement. The defenders try to hold the line, but the titan's size and destructive power make ordinary resistance look useless. It smashes the ground, throws soldiers back, and channels green energy that tears through the area. Even brave fighters who charge forward are overwhelmed by its red-lit body and crushing fists. The blonde elf woman sees the destruction and responds with golden light, summoning radiant winged figures that look like angelic reinforcements. A black-haired commander-like figure then clashes with the titan using lightning and summoned wings. But the battle is not finished, because a white-winged woman named Catherine appears and is addressed as a lord, suggesting a higher divine force has entered the war. Chapter 17 adds an ancient, personal layer to the crisis. A huge green dragon descends over the forest, smells the air, and recognizes a scent connected to the blonde elf-like girl. The dragon's reaction suggests she is tied to someone important from its past, or to a power older than the current conflict. Around the sacred tree, golden magic circles and colored elemental-looking symbols gather into an overwhelming divine formation. A blue-haired elf-like girl reacts from within the forest, while a black-haired robed man appears to explain or observe the forces involved. The blonde girl stands under heavy emotional pressure, accused and defiant as the situation turns from rescue into judgment. By the end, the forest is sealed under a protective dome, while red and blue forces gather outside. The arc has now become a siege around the tree, the girl, and whatever divine truth she carries. Chapter 18 cannot be safely treated like a normal plot chapter from the supplied material. The available notes say the chapter images were not accessible for direct inspection, and the OCR transcript contained no readable text. That means there are no verified character actions, attacks, locations, new powers, or faction moves to narrate. Instead of inventing a missing battle or pretending to know what happened, the recap has to preserve the confirmed continuity from Chapter 17. At that point, the forest had been sealed beneath a protective dome, a giant green dragon had recognized the blonde elf-like girl, and divine-looking forces were gathering around the sacred tree. The safest reading is that Chapter 18 falls inside the same escalating siege, but its exact events remain unconfirmed. The story's pressure continues, but the details cannot be responsibly filled in. Chapter 19 has the same evidence problem. The referenced images were not available in the message view, and the OCR transcript gave no readable dialogue, names, or captions. Because of that, there is no safe way to say whether Rhys acted, whether Catherine fought, whether the Dark Elves advanced, or whether the blonde elf girl's connection to the dragon was explained. What can be carried forward is only the confirmed setup from the previous reliable chapters. The arc had moved from public prejudice against an elf girl, to sacred tree abuse of power, to a dark elf extinction crisis, to angelic and draconic forces entering the battlefield. Chapter 19 may be important, but without visual evidence, its specific contribution must remain blank. For the recap, that uncertainty matters because it prevents false continuity from being built into the next confirmed beat. Chapter 20 also cannot be summarized from concrete panel evidence. The notes only confirm that the chapter was intended to include pages 0 through 75, but those pages were not available for inspection, and the OCR found no readable text. So the recap cannot safely describe a victory, defeat, reveal, new enemy, death, or power upgrade. The responsible ending is to summarize where the verified arc stands. Rhys found a mocked elf girl whose power was sealed. That power connected to a sacred tree crisis. The Dark Elves believed killing a goddess-like woman could save their people. The Sleeping World tree failed, the Tree of Chaos erupted, a titan attacked, Catherine appeared, and a giant dragon recognized the blonde girl. The current confirmed conflict ends with the forest under siege and Rhys facing a problem too large to solve with force alone. This arc works because the elf girl's suffering is not isolated. The town's cruelty, the Dark Elves' desperation, the palace factions, and the failing world tree are all symptoms of a world where survival has become unfairly distributed. Rhys stands out because he keeps rejecting the obvious violent answers.
He saves the elf girl, blocks her unstable power, refuses the dark elf's murder plan, and keeps searching for the broken rule underneath the chaos.
That makes the World Tree Crisis more than a monster fight. It is a test of whether this heavenly fixer can repair a system that has taught everyone else to sacrifice someone weaker. That is the recap for chapters 11 through 20. Subscribe for the next Chinese manhua recap as Rhys, the elf girl, and the World Tree Crisis push toward the next confirmed turning point.